Hey everyone, Jasper here from the Cart, and we're back to a new Spyro video, and today I am going to be we are going to be celebrating how Spyro turned 25. Yup, Spyro being 25 years old today. Like how? Just like how I said with Crash Bandicoot, Spyro is a franchise that I remembered playing as a kid. Not as much as Cross, though. Cross is the game that, like I mentioned, that starting gaming in general. But Spyro was up there with Cross. Of another one of my favorites growing up when I started playing video games. And again, I'm here to say how it's just crazy to think that how much Spyro gone through and how much is still going, right? And with the awaiting of a sequel, or whatever you would call it, which personally, the next Spyro game, even if it does have 4 in the title, I'm not calling it Spyro 4, but again, that's just my opinion. But again, Spyro has been around just as the same time as Crash, I could definitely say, when it comes to how Spyro has been out like since 1998, which again is just crazy to think for a lot of people. Which I'm sure a lot of people that grew up in that time, or were kids in that time, and when Crash and Spyro first came out. Which, again, personally, I wasn't born when these franchises first came out, but still, I'm sure a lot of people that are of course adults now, but grew up with the franchise when it first came out. Right, when they first released. I'm sure a lot of y'all would probably feel like, I'm sure a lot of y'all would probably say, gosh, I feel old. just to think of how they're 25 and 27. Like, that's just absolutely crazy. Like, it just does not feel like it, though. It just does not feel like it. And again, with both Crash and Spyro's success of them making a comeback, which I do believe Spyro will return with a new game. I mean, look at Crash. Crash Bandicoot came back better than ever, not just from the Insane Trilogy, but with the success of the Insane Trilogy, it brought Crash back for a new sequel, a real sequel, with Crash 4 It's About Time, and also a mobile game, Crash on the Run, and also Crash Team Rumble, and Nitro Fueled. And of course, Spyro being cameoed in the different Crash games too. Because again, they are brothers. They are brothers after all. And if y'all remember to the old saying that Canadian guy A says, whatever happens to Crash happens to Spyro. It's one of Canadian guy A's biggest sayings when it comes to Crash and Spyro. Whatever happens to Crash will happen to Spyro. And again, Crash got a new sequel or a new game, so Spyro will do the same thing. We'll have the same eventually. Again, I know a lot of people are not patient. I mean, honestly, I'm not patient myself, honestly. Yeah. I'm not really patient either. And of course, with Spyro making a return, or made cameos in different Crash games, but also made not too long recent returns or cameos, like in Nitro Fueled in the Spyro and Friends Grand Prix. and also how he made an appearance as a boss in Crash on the Run, and how he's going to be making an appearance in Crash Team Rumble, right? How he's going to be making an appearance in Crash Team Rumble with Season 2 introducing Ripto, and most likely Spyro, if not in Season 2, then later down the line. Obviously, we do know that Spyro will come into Crash Team Rumble eventually, but we do know that Ripto will be joining the party in Crash Team Rumble this Tuesday, of course, right? This Tuesday, on the 12th. Ripto in Season 2 in the party mode of Crash Team Rumble will be released. And it wouldn't be a surprise if we see Spyro sooner than we think. But of course, Spyro will, of course, himself, will come into Crash Team Rumble. And again, also, seeing Alora is in the game files too. We'll be seeing her too. It's just a matter of time. And again, obviously, when it comes to the Spyro community, it is both Spyro and Crash are definitely big communities. Like, you would probably be crazy to think of how big these two communities are. Like, it's impressive, right? And again, just like with Crash, it's very great to be a part of this community, or of the community. Like I mentioned with Crash, it's so good to be a part of these communities, right? And talk with people that also are in love with that love the franchise. And there are some Spyro games that I've never played, like on the DS, like Attack of the Rhinox, Season of Flame, Shadow Legacy, just because I never owned them, really. But I did play, of course, Crash Purple and Spyro Orange. Crash Purple and Spyro Orange. And, of course, I never played Spyro in the Skylanders. I never done Spyro in Skylanders. Really, because I really wasn't interested in Skylanders to begin with. But just to think how they both made an appearance in Skylanders just says it all, right? Just says it all generally. It just says it all, I can just say. And of course, obviously, when it comes to me, I do love Spyro, but I do prefer Crash over Spyro. But I do love both of them very much, of being my favorite, up there of my favorite franchises. It's just of how I grew up playing with Crash first. Crash Bandicoot was my first ever my first ever game. Crash Bandicoot was my first ever franchise that I've played growing up as a kid. And Spyro was soon after. Not that long after. And again, Crash is what started me, or how it made me become a gamer. But again, I love both of them. It's just how Crash Bandicoot, was my first ever game and franchise growing up as a kid that I ever played, and that brought my love on gaming. And of course, that eventually how I am today, of having created my YouTube channel, right? And again, I know a lot of people are getting very ancient. Ancient, is that the word to say? I'm guessing that's the word to describe. On really just trying to be patient for a new game, either it's a sequel or whatever, right? Because again, not counting the Reignited trilogy, if you don't count remakes, Spyro's last game, proper game, was the end of the Legend of Spyro series, Dawn of the Dragon. And, of course, don't count Skylanders. Personally, I find Skylanders to be a different franchise. A separate franchise from Crash and Spyro, personally. I don't normally count Skylanders being part of the franchises, of course. I say that they're, of course, separate on the franchise, from the main franchises. That's just me, though. But again, not counting Skylanders and not counting the Reignited trilogy, Dawn of the Dragon was the last main installment, really, or the last new game that we did get for Spyro back in 2008. So, it's definitely, again, it's definitely not a surprise that a lot of us are definitely awaiting of a new Spyro game. Especially with Crash and Bandicoot, or Crash getting his new games, and a lot of people are wondering of when Spyro is going to be getting his, which I know is definitely hard of waiting. But you gotta remember too, Spyro takes longer to develop. Spyro takes longer to develop, because Spyro has more open world, right? Spyro has more open world aspects compared to Crash. So, Spyro takes longer to make, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, of course, but again, it just shows of how Spyro would, of course, take longer to develop. Takes longer to develop than Crash, because again, just compared the open world aspect with Spyro to the levels, and I mean, not counting Twinsanity. I mean, that was just one Crash game that had the open world, right? Crash Twinsanity was just only the one game that had the open world aspect. But again, the other Crash games look at of how it doesn't have much open world aspects in Spyro. Again, that's personally just saying of how, Spyro takes longer to develop than when it comes to Crash. Not saying anything bad or anything, I'm just saying it, really. Right? Just saying how, and you know what I'm trying to put out. I know a lot of people would probably be offended no matter what how I would probably say it, which, again, regarding to this society, I mean, it's not a surprise. But again, when it comes to the next game, I know we will get a new game. It's just a matter of time. Either if it's revealed this year, which, who knows exactly. I'm not quite sure, if it would be revealed this year. I mean, think about it. Year of the Dragon is next year, right? The Year of the Dragon is next year, in 2024. So, having a new Spyro game released of the Year of the Dragon would actually make proper sense, if you think about it. Spyro making a brand new return in a new game next year would actually make a bit sense. Or, would make sense, honestly. But, again, we're not sure exactly. I mean, a lot of people would say that the Spyro Twitter has been active, but probably just to celebrate the anniversary, of course. I'm celebrating the anniversary. Which I know they did release a video on their YouTube channel for Spyro's anniversary, 25th anniversary. But nothing new on like, or nothing saying of the next Spyro game or anything. But again, it's just a matter of waiting, right? Spyro is like Kingdom Hearts, really. When it comes to the waiting, Spyro is like Kingdom Hearts. I can compare Kingdom Hearts to Spyro. How you just gotta be patient. I mean, this really goes for any franchise, of course, but Spyro is just like Kingdom Hearts when it comes to information. When it comes to information, like, you just don't know exactly. Like, it could be a long time, it could be who knows when. Like I said, it could be for any franchise, but again, I feel like there's some similarities when it comes to both these franchises, like Crash and Kingdom Hearts and Spyro, right? Again, that can go for Crash as well when it comes to news, right? That can go for Crash and other franchises too, but just to make an example. And if I were to say my personal, like, best guess, a best guess on what like, if I were to say exactly if it were to be announced this year, I mean, think about it. Toys for Bob did sort of give a tease, you know, sewing Spyro with a 23, balloon sewing 23, meaning 2023, or partying like 2023. People, of course, implying that it's somewhat of a tease, right? And again, knowing if Toys for Bob is the main developers of the next Spyro game, which a lot of people are speculating that it could be Toys for Bob, it could be Baynox. I mean, personally, I would like to see Baynox develop a Spyro game. Honestly, Toys for Bob has sewn with Crash Team Rumble, is sewing with Crash Team Rumble, and has sewn with Crash 4, that Toys for Bob can surely make an amazing Crash games. So, seeing Baynox be able and try to sewing how they can make a Spyro game, I would really love to see that. Right? Because Toys for Bob has shown how they can make an amazing Crash games. So, seeing how well Baynox did with Nitro Fueled, I think seeing them being the developers of a Spyro game would be actually quite interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people would quite want that too. I mean, personally, I don't think anybody would even care who's developing it. Right? Like, anybody at Activision. I'm sure nobody would even care whoever at Activision is developing the next Spyro game. But still, Baynox would be definitely an interesting choice, though, to actually see. And I'm sure they would definitely be able to make a Spyro game. Just showing how Toys for Bob has sewn with Crash. And of course, Baynox sewing with Nitro Fueled. How well with Nitro Fueled. I could definitely say, yeah. Yeah. They can definitely make Baynox can definitely make a Spyro game. And I would not be surprised if that is the case. But I wouldn't be surprised either if it is Toys for Bob. But again, a new Spyro game will come eventually. It's just, time will tell, really. Right? I do believe that Spyro will get a proper, or his next game, a new game. I do believe he will get a new game. It's just a matter of when, and it's a matter of, well, really it's a matter of when, really, right? It's a matter of when he gets his next game. It could be announced sometime this year. It could be the Year of the Dragon, or just in time for the Year of the Dragon in 2024. Who knows exactly, but I do believe, and I do know, Spyro will get a new game. And of course, with him coming into Crash Team Rumble, it definitely shows that Spyro is definitely not going anywhere.